Marisinet Room at the Town Hall. We will begin with a roll call.
Charlene Langlois.
Alvin Hill.
Bill Catchpoint.
Brian Santos.
Dave Popolski.
Mike Krogel.
Randy Blackmore. Joseph Brody Brown. We will seat Alvin Hill for John B. Lenke, Brian Santos for Melissa DeRozier, and David Popolski for Robert Roche. Before we go further, I would like to move to amend the agenda to read Monday, June 24th, 2019, instead of Tuesday, June 24th, 19. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Yes to amend, no to not amend.
Yes.
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 Just for the yes, thank you. Item 2, approve minutes, May 28th, 2019, Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting. So the motion has been made to approve the minutes as written. Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. I do have a correction to make. If we go to item 14 on the minutes. It says discuss public hearing and public action. Randy Blackmer Jr. moved. Randy Blackmer moved. John Lenke seconded the motion to continue this public hearing and the next meeting on July 22nd, 2018. That should read June 24th, 2019. Corrections were made and posted, but I want the minutes to reflect the corrections. So the motion as made was to accept as written. Would you like to amend it?
Yeah, I'll make the amendment that date is corrected.
I'll second it.
Mr. Rice, do you second Mr. Blackmer's motion as amended? The motion as amended is to accept the minutes with that one correction. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, it will be yes to approve with correction.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Forgot to abstain.
Mike Krogel, yes.
Dave Popolski, yes.
Brian Santos, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Charlene Langlois, yes.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes. Item 3, applications received. PZC application 19-16 continued. Applicant and owner David Coman for property at 0 Hackstrom Road, map 19, block 85, lot 6A, zone R80, requesting gravel permit operation renewal. I was just handed this with regards to application 1916. Commission members, we are currently in talks with the contractor concerning the gravel pit and respectfully request that this application is extended 30 days in order to get affairs in order. We request to be on the agenda for next month's regularly scheduled meeting. Respectfully, Amy Coleman on behalf of David Coleman.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Rice, seconded by Mr. Blackmer to continue the application and put it on next month's agenda. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, it will be yes to accept.
Charlene Langlois, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Brian Santos, yes.
Dave Popolski, yes.
Mike Krogel, yes.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes. Item 3B, application 19-18, applicant Ron Davis, owner, Urban Ventures LLC, John Osano for property at 16D Buckingham Road, map 167, block 61, lot 66, zone R40, requesting home occupation for office to conduct off-site residential painting. Business name Ron Davis.
questions, the application's in order, he's just doing an office, you have a picture of his, I think it's 4x6 space in the rental house, the letter from the, landlord. You should have a copy of that, it's in the record. Very simple, no storage, one truck. You know, he has paint cans and things like that, we're gonna go to the shed behind the house.
Make a motion to approve application 19-18.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Rice, seconded by Ms. Langlois to accept application 19-18. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, be yes or approve.
Randy Wagner, yes.
Yes. Mike Rugolo, yes.
Dave Probowski, yes.
Brian Santos, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Charlene Langlois, yes.
Joseph Ferdy Brown, yes. Item 4, applications received after agenda posted. There are none. Item 5, citizens' comments.
I have three. Kathleen Godzig, 157 Spicer Road. The first, I would just like to submit to you. I did send a letter to planning and zoning attention of the chair on June 3rd. It was received in the town of Thompson. And then asking for a response. Did not receive a response, so sent a email follow-up on June 11th, and to date I haven't had a response, so I'm just submitting that.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Second item on the citizens' comments, I also transcribed the meetings, the recorded meeting from 5/28/19, so I'd like to give that to you.
Thank you.
Okay. And in that transcription, I'd like to just talk about two things. One of the things in the transcription is that on page 15, there was a voice of one of the commissioners at the time of the hearing last, on that day, and they had said, when they were talking, they had said that, had expressed that, my thought is that they're, meaning us, we're saying we need all these engineers and whatnot, and the individuals then said, we have Mr. Held, but Mr. Held is really the applicant's attorney, the applicant's engineer, who has qualifications. And we have people who have done a lot of research, meaning us, but I haven't seen any degrees or any expertise other than what they have done, that they have done their own research. And he expressed that he felt that they really wanted to make, if we really wanted to make our points, we needed to back them up with what we were saying with some people with qualifications. And then looking on an email from David Held to Marla and Cindy on June 4th, again, there's the statement, and I quote, "The vast majority of the public commentary has been completely devoid of any technical or factual merit." So I would just like, as a
Ms. Godzig,
comment.
I'm gonna pause
Yeah.
right now. These will all be appropriate under the public hearing.
I
time.
thought it was comment, because I just wanted to just let you know that.
I understand,
Okay, so.
Comment is for things that aren't on the agenda that don't have a public hearing, just kind of general matters. If it's something that you want to have in the record for the public hearing,
No, I don't. I want it as a citizen's comment. I just have a few
okay.
thoughts on that.
But it won't be part of the record for the hearing if you make it.
No, I understand.
Okay.
No, that's why I'm doing it at the citizens' comment
Okay.
level, okay? So, I know I'm not an engineer, but I have a professional degree, and my professional degree requires a strong technical and scientific knowledge base. And I know the people of Thompson, they may not all be engineers, but they also have a rich and varied and strong practical knowledge base through their experience. They're smart, they understand, and they do have the authority based upon each of their individual knowledge backgrounds and their experiences over the years to have input. Also, I would like to just give these to you because my background is highly technical. This is one of my major journals that I do read. It's called the Journal of Bone and Joint Surgery. So if anyone wants to, like, quiz me on technical abilities, I'll be more than happy to do that at some point. And then, my third is a comment, looking at the Inland Wetlands Commission meeting. It actually says May 14th, but it's really June 11th of this month. And there's one area on inspection and follow-up action, so I'll just give you that, so that you can just follow along a little bit. And I'm gonna be quick on this, so don't worry about it. And basically, it's on page 2, down in inspections and follow-up actions. And in that area, there's permit number 11-0902. And on that permit, a silt fence had failed and allowed sediment to go up into a protected area. The company of record is Strategic Commercial Realty. And so Marla Butts met with Mr. Newth and at the site to address the issues. And Mr. Newth had then indicated that he was not using the same approved plans that Marla Butts had. So there was a discrepancy in what he was using compared to what the permitted plans were. And I think that's very concerning, because he said that the plans that he was using did not show a berm, and that berm would then interfere with driveways to lots 6 and 7 on the excavated property. So it was recommended that an engineer would look at this, and so they tried to get a hold of Strategic, but they failed to receive any communication. But eventually Strategic did get in touch with them. They did have an engineer come, and the engineer was contacted and is now, I believe, getting involved with this. But I'm coming from this from the point of view that Inland Wetlands and you both work very closely together, especially on permitted conditions with these types of projects. And I just want you to, you're probably aware, but I just want you to be aware that I'm concerned that you're still gonna be watching this and taking care of this for the town of Thompson. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Were these comments related to Ralston or?
General citizens' comments. This is not for the public hearing for application 1907.
Okay, thank you.
Hearing none. Item 6, reports of officers and staff, budget report, July 1st through May 30th. Any questions on the budget that we have? Director of Planning and Development report.
In the interest of moving things along tonight, I will save my memo for the next meeting.
And the ZEO report.
Have it if you have any questions or anything I wrote. This is short this month.
Item 7, correspondence. Any questions in regards to the correspondence the commission received this month?
I gave you a report on the Morris William Healy. I just got I haven't heard anything from they sent me certified letter. I haven't heard anything from the liquor commission.
Item 8, signing of Mylar. None. Item 9, old business. 9A, inactive gravel operation at 240 Brickyard Road.
I think I said in my report that I have no report, but I did talk to him today. And we need to sit down, he needs to work out a plan, reclamation plan, and I told him that we could not do that today, so we'll do it for July.
Item 9B, the Planning and Zoning Commission Subcommittee zoning rewrite meetings.
Well, I sent an email and said, please let me know what dates you're available, and so we can do a calendar for the 7 members.
Item C, summary of the EDC Branding Committee event on June 5th, 2018. Detailed review will be submitted as of July 22nd. Item 10, new business. 10A, purchase of town of Thompson property at 0 Center Street, map 116, block 7, lot 17, zone R40.07 acres.
So, the town is asking for an 824 review of this so that it can be released for auction. I believe that is how it is to be phrased. The ordinance disposition of town-owned property is part of my intention, so that's just something that the commission needs to vote on, authorize or not, as you wish. There have been 2 people who have expressed interest so far.
Mr. Reyes?
Make a motion to authorize the selectmen to put this land up for sale. It's of no value in the area, such a small parcel. Also, and may help the others.
Okay, motion has been made by Mr. Rice,
I'll second.
seconded by Mr. Hill. Quietly in the corner. Any discussion on the motion?
So it's vacant land now?
Yeah,
Yes.
the land was acquired through auction, you know, when they had the auction of unpaid taxes, and the town took the land back in lieu of the taxes not being paid.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, it will be yes to authorize the auction.
Shelley Langway, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Brian Santos, yes.
Dave Pavelski, yes.
Mike Strogo, yes.
Randy Blackburn. Joseph Brody Brown, yes. So, item 10B, discussion of drainage problems from 440 Riverside Drive onto Mr. and Mrs. DeVivo property at 442 Riverside Drive.
And as stated in my memo, this has been an ongoing problem since 2004, when they moved the building that is now there, they moved it back. So Mr. DeVivo has had a drainage problem on his property. In 2018, he contacted me, and I finally, through contacts, through going out and looking at the property, taking pictures of the property, etc., I actually put the history together, what was available and what I don't have to look for further. And there's 13 points to that history, and I still need to do research on it. So additional work needs to be completed. The owners, the old owners and the new owners, have been sent violation letters, etc. Mr. DeVivo, he gave me a list of six items that he feels is affecting his property from the gas station. And so what has to happen in the end is comparing those 6 items that are affecting his property with the special permit that they were issued in 2005 or something like that. So there's more research. He knows that I'm doing more research. I'm working with Bill, and don't ask me to pronounce his last name, from DEP. And it's gonna be ongoing. But I just thought I'd give you a review of what I so far have found out from the files that are quick to get. And that's it.
Thank you. Item 10C, Town of Thompson Planning and Zoning Annual Report fiscal year 2018. We all received that too. Do you have something to, anything to add from
No, it's pretty straightforward.
completing her statutory requirements?
That is precisely the case.
For the fiscal year. Commissioners' comments. Item 12, our next meeting will be the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting, Monday, July 22nd, 2019, at 7 p.m. at the Merrill Snee Room of the Town Hall. Item 13, public hearing continued. 13A, PZC application 19-07, applicant Strategic Commercial Realty Incorporated, doing business as Rossi Materials owner, River Junction Estates LLC, for property at 363 Aquatic Compton Road, map 156, block 8, lot 7, zone RA80, gravel mining operation to excavate sand and gravel. The protocol for this evening's public hearing will allow 50 minutes for the applicant to speak, 15 minutes for public comments. We'll proceed to the commissioners asking any questions. We will then offer public comment on anything new for application 19-07, and an opportunity for the applicant to respond. That is how we will proceed this evening. So we'll begin. Ms. Dunn, will you be able to keep time for us?
Oh, phone, yes. Do you have a phone here?
Clock on the wall?
Yeah, that's true.
It's not exactly precise.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, yeah. Karen, Brian has his own. Can you do it? Okay. Kara? Brian has one.
I think everybody gets out there.
So Mr. Santos, you're our timekeeper.
Look at the totem pole.
We'll begin. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, David Helm, professional engineer and land surveyor with Provost and Rivero, here this evening on behalf of Rawson Materials. So earlier today, I submitted some revised plans and I reviewed them with Cindy. The revisions were made based on some of the comments and concerns from the public at the last public hearing. You all have the revised plans in front of you. So we reviewed the public's slideshow presentation. We were provided with a printout of that. The only concern in there that we saw that really had much technical merit behind it was potential concerns about grading and depth of water table. In response to that, we installed 5 monitor wells across the site. There's one here, one here, one here, one here, and one here. So basically covering the outer perimeter of the site. When we installed the wells, we came back a day later and measured the groundwater elevations in them so they had time to stabilize. We did revise our grading slightly based on that information. We pulled the grading back a little bit in the the southeast corner of the site, and we added some additional grading and material removal down here adjacent to the road because the water table is very deep there. And excavating to install this well, we found it is very good material. Not surprisingly, we're staying near the existing ground elevation right here. There's a deep hole that exists. There's no evidence of groundwater or wetlands or anything in that existing depression, so it seems realistic. I guess one other thing I would point out about this revised grading, this depression here provides a significant amount of sediment storage. Merely by inspection, the size of this depression, which is 8 feet deep, before it would overflow anywhere, would contain well in excess of a 100-year storm from this entire excavated area. We revised the grading a little bit to provide positive pitch into this depression from the area of the site over here adjacent to the wetlands. We also extended the topsoil berm. We are gonna have adequate amounts of topsoil that would be stripped off and maintained for restoration of the site. So we extended that berm, which previously ended about here, further along here, so it's basically covering the majority of that front face of the work. So that's gonna provide some additional visual screening from Aquatic Town Farm Road. Again, that berm would be 10 feet high, based on the amount of topsoil that seems to be out there. We also added sheet 5, which is basically a replication of the excavation grading plan, but it shows final restoration grades. In keeping with the past practice, the town of Thompson has always understood to be the case with the regulations. We are to provide 8 feet of separation from the final grades to the groundwater table. And based on those monitor wells and the readings that we've taken, we've prepared this plan to show what those final grades would be, which provide the 8 feet to groundwater. We discussed with Cindy when we were installing the wells, Rawson Materials will monitor those wells on a quarterly basis throughout the excavation. That's why we did put them on the perimeter so they can stay in place. During the wet season, we would be monitoring those at least on a monthly basis. We will provide those results to your zoning enforcement officer if there's the need to revise these grades based on that information to provide the 8 feet. Everybody will have the information to see what those grades should be. So, based on what they are now, and we feel that they're probably going to be pretty consistent based on the soil test results that we saw. This is the grading that we proposed as the final restoration. So what this basically means, there's 110,000 yards coming out. They're going to be bringing in about 25,000 yards of material to backfill the site and achieve these final grades. That's pretty consistent with what they typically do to restore a site anyway. They do process this material, they crush it, they wash it. That results in silt being washed out. Typically that is returned to the site that it's excavated from. The topsoil is spread over the top of it. The silt combined with the topsoil gives you a better growing medium because you've got some fine soil to hold moisture rather than just spreading the topsoil on bare gravel. So this is what we anticipate the site looking like when everything is actually completed in 2 or so years. That's all the new information that I have to present.
Excuse me. Order, please. Thank you. With that, we will turn, actually before, I do have one correspondence that was requested to be read into the record. I will do that, and then we will open it up to the next 15-minute portion. This is a letter dated June 24th, 2019, to the Thompson Planning and Zoning Commission from Carolyn Word, a concerned citizen, re PZC permit application 363 Aquatic Town Farm Road, gravel mining. I request that this be read into the record of the continued public hearing on June 24th, 2019. I would like to bring the following information to your attention, especially because I see a lot of misinformation circulating about the permit application for gravel mining associated with what used to be land owned by the Robbins family. Opponents to the gravel mining proposal at 363 Aquatic Town Farm Road believe that the gravel mining will result in, quote, the landscape being gutted out and the existing upslope landscape hill and wildlife habitat will be lost forever, end quote, Thompson Transparency Group on Facebook. They also state that the Wyndham Land Trust's Robbins Preserve is within 800 feet of the proposal, and they express concerns that the endangered species at the Robbins Preserve will be negatively impacted by this gravel mining proposal. These are false assumptions based upon the following facts. The Robbins Preserve, 123.5 acres of land that formerly belonged to the Robbins family, was purchased by the Wyndham Land Trust in 2012 with support from the Nature Conservancy and the State of Connecticut Open Space and Watershed Land Acquisition Grant Program. This program has limited funds and, quote, the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection awards grants to projects that offer the highest conservation and recreational value, end quote, Connecticut DEP website. How is it possible that this previously gravel mined land was so valuable to the Nature Conservancy, the State of Connecticut, and the Wyndham Land Trust? The Robbins Preserve was gravel mined by Alan Rawson over a period of decades in the 1990s and again in the 2000s. Each phase was reclaimed and flourished such that it became a land trust holding that now is preserved in perpetuity. This preserve is a living example of how resilient nature is and how gravel mining can contribute to biological diversity. The preserve contains riverine habitat, forested habitat, and grassland habitat, thanks to the gravel extraction that occurred. Grassland habitat is necessary for ground nesting bird species, and it is of special value to the state of Connecticut because it is a habitat in decline statewide. In addition, the Wyndham Land Trust also purchased and is protecting in perpetuity Long Pond Preserve, 103 acres of previously gravel mined land. This mining was done illegally by an out-of-state company, and the degree to which this land was mined was egregious. However, over time, the violation was remediated and nature healed itself. It is currently highly valued for its biodiversity. In closing, I would like to say that the Rossin family has demonstrated good citizenship in Thompson in many ways. I am personally familiar with the fact that Alan Rossin and other members of the Rossin family were instrumental in the acquisition and preservation in perpetuity of 249 acres of land along the east side of Thompson, the Leclerc Preserve, the Robbins Preserve, the Rocky Brook Inferno properties. These protected lands are examples of balance between conservation and profit-based land use through a spirit of cooperation. Conservation and profit-based land use are not necessarily mutually exclusive, as opposed to this proposal would have us believe. Thank you for allowing me to bring to your attention relevant information that thus far has been ignored by those in opposition to this application. Carolyn Orange. Okay, so we will now begin the period for public comments.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we just have one other thing. I believe this was addressed directly to you. We've got several copies of it here, if you'd like to pass them up to the commission, but this is actually a letter from Attorney Mark Brands. He's the town attorney for the town of Canterbury. There was significant testimony during previous public hearings about problems with Rawson Materials in Canterbury. There was an inquiry with the Canterbury First Selectman who requested that Attorney Brands draft this letter and provide it to this commission, so it may be beneficial to enter that into the record as well.
We ready on the timer?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Open to comments from the public.
Are we able to ask, Mr. Held questions?
Through the chair.
Because, this
Well, you
is-
can raise issues and then
Yeah,
you can
what,
answer.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
This is-
so,
this is
so,
new.
yeah, so we'd like, if you, so we do have, yes, if you raise issues through me, the applicant can answer those questions.
Okay, because we were here on Friday and there was no, plans that were available for us to view. So these are just plans that have now become available, and I don't know when the, timing, was when they came in. So we don't have any ability to really look at these plans in detail and actually look over things, to the satisfaction level, as citizens with this change in plans with regard to the proposed, gravel excavation. The other thing is, could you please ask Mr. Held if he is actually excavating within that 8-foot, separation from, the bottom of the excavation shall be 8 feet above the ground water table. Is he excavating into that?
Do you want me to address these one at a time, or just?
It might be easier if you ask your questions together and.
No, that's fine, I'll take one at a time.
Okay, and
That
this,
would be preferred.
yes, Mr. Held.
So the answer to your question is yes, we will be excavating within 8 feet of the groundwater table. The final restoration grades will provide 8 feet of cover over the groundwater table. And I'm sure you've read the zoning regulations many, many times in preparing for this evening. So in subsection C of section 5, letter I, it says no excavation shall be conducted below the water table except in accordance with an approved plan. Based on Can I finish? Thank you.
Well, I thought you had finished, so go
No.
ahead.
So based on past applications, past performance, past interpretations and enforcement of the zoning regulations on other gravel excavations in the town, the commission can approve an applicant to either dig into the water table if they're showing that on the plan, or they can dig to the water table, again, if that's what's being proposed. And these sections of the regulations are not in conflict, but if we go to subsection H, which is the general conditions, it says the bottom of the excavation shall be 8 feet above the groundwater table, which we are providing with our restoration plan. That's been standard practice on many excavations in the town of Thompson in the past. The marketable materials excavated out to or just above the water table, as we're proposing here. We're not excavating into the water table at all. And then we're bringing in additional material that will be the washing fines from processing this material to raise the grade back up to provide that 8 feet of cover. That makes the land suitable for future development, future building. We are maintaining adequate areas that we're not touching at all, so septic systems can be installed in the future. So we are grading in accordance with the regulations. That's our opinion.
I have some additional comments on that. Nowhere in the zoning, Thompson regulations, special permits, special uses, gravel bags, earth removal, does it state that the applicant may excavate material within the 8-foot separation as long as the final restored grades provide at least 8 feet of separation to the groundwater table. Again, Mr. Hell said that based on past practices, but I need to draw your attention to Chairman Parati, is that we were instructed by you in previous hearings that according to you, your stipulation for this hearing, that no prior work projects can be entered or considered for application 1907, so that negates the fact of past practices, that this is a new permit and it needs to be just evaluated in and of itself. Take issue with the fact that you do have in your regulations the definition shall, under Article 3, Rules and Definitions, Section 2, Definitions, page 6. The word shall is mandatory and not discretionary, and therefore, under Article 9, Special Issues, Section 5, Gravel banks, earth removal, that under general conditions, you actually have in your zoning regulations, you have bolded this to read, the bottom of the excavation shall be 8 feet above the groundwater table, and it does not, in any of your regulations, in any way, shape, or form, say that you can go within that and then backfill to create that condition. I'd like to just pass out this, because we have time constraints, so, these are listed here. Also, there's also on site plan, again, there are a number of requirements. The current application has 15 requirements that do not meet the zoning regulations, and they're stated in here. So you can look at them, and I guess I give one to you, right? And for the sake of letting other people speak, I will allow you to just look through those. And all my issues that I brought up are contained within that packet.
Thank you.
Is this general?
Yeah.
Is this general?
Sure, yeah, we'll get right here. I'm
I'm
sorry, just your name and address.
Dan Jadurski,
And your address, please?
1 Jadurski Lane, Taunton, Connecticut.
Thank you.
Dave, I had just a quick question, just my education.
Just through,
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, I did a plumbing for a house for my niece, and she's on a new road, which has nothing to do with this, but that was also mine activity. When they first dug the foundation, it was dry. And then 3 months later, when we went to start this job, it was 3 feet of standing water. So I guess I'm trying to understand how, and they had to put a 6-inch relief pipe to get all that water out of there. So did they go below the grade? Because if someone else builds a house there, they're gonna have the same issue, and this is, I guess, what we're trying to avoid. That's just my comment.
Sir,
Sam Stillwell, 226 Quantown Farm Road. I've got a 90-acre lot behind my house that was mined for about 9 or 10 years. Took a lot of gravel and stuff out. I often work at nights. I was unable to sleep most days when they were working it because of the noise. That doesn't bother me so much as the fact that the northern part of Quantown Farm Road was torn up pretty badly by the trucks over the years. It's been paved a couple of times, and it was directly due to that. A lot of noise with the trucks going by, and I'm just wondering what means of compensation might be provided should that happen again to the roads. Spicer Road's gonna get heavily used, Quantown Farm Road will, possibly East Thompson Road and Sand Dam. And it costs the town a lot to pave that road. And when they did it, they messed up a lot of driveways as a result. So I'm just wondering what factors you're gonna consider for that.
thank you.
Jim Sorrow, Spicer Road, Thompson, Connecticut. I'm sure they have policies and procedures for environmental, oil spills, hydraulic lines and stuff. The question is, are there numbers available for a citizen to call if they see something? 'Cause we're gonna be watching, and you know what they say, you see something, say something. Is there a phone number posted? You can make a call. I'm sure everybody's honest about it, but hoses break, things leak. You know, no one wants to say, oh geez, I screwed up. And no one wanna pay for a pickup. I mean, I've worked in biotech, and I know what it costs to clean up hazard spill. Do we just call Clean Harbors if we see a spill and no one's taking care of it? That's gonna be a price tag that they should be responsible for. And that's not gonna be cheap. Where's the actual high limit decibels to a building in this construction area? Is there a real number you have? 90, 70, what is it? Again, we're gonna be monitoring. Another thing, and I'm not saying they're doing it, but birds of a feather flock together. They're starting to use a lot of jig brakes now. And there's no need for it. I'm not saying it's their trucks, but people talk, they get together. There should be no jake breaks in that area. The hill's not that bad. I think maybe the towns with some signage up, and there should be some fines to pay for if these jake breaks are gonna continue. That's about it for me.
Thank you.
Gail Arsenal, 157 Spice Road. I think Mr. Held, when he just spoke, he said going below the water table with an approved plan. However, I don't believe he has an approved plan. Does he? I just don't know what he means by that.
That's what this public hearing is to decide.
Okay.
Hi.
Fire Marshal.
Excuse me, please pass the timer for a moment, please.
We've exceeded our capacity of this room, so we need to make some adjustments. Well, more than what's allowed for this room. So I don't know if you wanna,
If you don't have a place now, you have to recess it until a different time and different place.
we've taken complaints, the 911 dispatch center took complaints.
How many are we over?
How many are we over?
Yeah, how many are we over?
At least 10.
At least 10. 10 over?
Okay, just 1 minute.
What is it, 50?
83.
Oh, it's over 50, right? Yeah.
It's over. Yeah, we're over 90.
Yeah.
Two people just left. Two people just left, so we need to.
Just
Yeah,
1 minute,
but there was
please.
people in the hallway I didn't count. 83 can